Chapter 6660. Hold a new demon slaughter competition. When this thought appeared in everyone's minds, they couldn't help but frown. After this, everyone was already physically and mentally exhausted. Even though their cultivation wasn't weak, dealing with these monsters in this environment where dark energy lingered all day was really unpleasant. Moreover, many of the monsters had already been dealt with. Once they started again, they would definitely have to go deeper. At that time, the injuries on their bodies would probably worsen again. For a moment, everyone couldn't help but feel even more depressed. This result wasn't what they wanted. At this moment, the city lord's calm voice sounded again. I've already heard that there's a problem with the points in this demon slaughter competition, so I've already thought of a way to recalculate the points. Any points that aren't obtained by oneself will be directly deducted. In this way, everyone's points will be the real points obtained by oneself. As the city lord's voice fell, everyone's faces were filled with surprise. No one had expected that the city lord had already thought of a way to deal with it. If they hadn't mentioned it, who knew what the outcome would have been? When Bai Luchuan heard this, he couldn't help but be stunned. He had never thought that the city lord would make such a preparation. This method. He had never heard the city lord mention it before. When did he prepare this? According to his original intention, he only wanted to question the results this time and make the reputation of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others unstable. However, once all the points were recalculated, there was no need to mention the fake points of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, but what about his points? Brother Bai, if we recalculate, then your points? Yun Xiaomen looked at Bai Luchuan worriedly. Ever since Guan Yi's death, she had been following Bai Luchuan, so she knew his points very well. Even though he had also obtained a lot of points, the points that he had collected were also quite a lot. Bai Luchuan's expression also became extremely ugly. When he thought of his previous threat, he felt as if a slap had landed on his face. It was burning with pain. City Lord, is what you said true? In the crowd, a question could not help but sound out. Bai Ziwan laughed heartily. Of course it's true. From now on, the demon slaughter competition will be fair. All methods will be eliminated. The points can only belong to the cultivators themselves. All of a sudden, cheers came from the crowd. In Xi'an City, there were very few cultivators with power and influence like Bai Luchuan. They could only rely on their own strength. Under such circumstances, they were completely incomparable to Bai Luchuan and company. However, with the change of the points rules, it meant that they would have a day of success. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes couldn't help but fall on Bai Qingli's body. She had a feeling that this method should be proposed by Bai Qingli. It had been a while since he withdrew from the demon-slaying competition, and he expected that Xiao Hei's words had undoubtedly made him suspicious of Bai Luchuan. Once he used this method, all of his tricks would be exposed. It was indeed a good plan. What a pity! Originally, the top 10 rewards would have been ours. Chapter 6661. Actually, there's nothing to pity. I feel that even if Bewitching and company were to remove the other points, the results would definitely not be bad. Shengguan Yingying had a look of confidence. It was indeed difficult to calculate the points on the rankings. However, based on the previous situation, even if they were to remove these points, there would still be quite a number of them on the rankings. Zhongli Mu said in high spirits, I think this is quite good. Otherwise, Bai Luchuan will inevitably find trouble with us. Why don't we let him lose wholeheartedly? Indeed. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I also want to know what our true ranking will be. Bai Qingli also stood up. His handsome and elegant face had a faint smile like a breeze. We originally wanted to ask for everyone's opinion on this matter. We happened to realize that everyone had many questions about this, so we took this opportunity to reform it. We will continue to implement it in the future. Everyone nodded. This was the most fair and just decision. No one would object. Bai Luchuan couldn't help but feel anxious. When he thought of what he had said previously, he really wished he could slap himself to death. If he had known that this would happen, he wouldn't have said such words no matter what. However, under everyone's watchful eyes, he couldn't find any other way to change it even if he wanted to. Brother, can I not change my points? Bai Luchuan sent a voice transmission to Bai Qingli. Bai Qingli was the only one who could save him from his predicament. Bewitching and company aren't good people. Because they cheated, I couldn't take it lying down, so I bought some points. If I'm exposed in front of everyone, then I'll lose all my face. Seeing Bai Liuchuan's anxious look for help, Bai Qingli remained calm and collected. She looked cultured and elegant, and her tone was filled with sincerity. Luchuan, since this matter was pushed by father, if everyone changes except you, once it's discovered, where will father's face go? Brother? Bai Luchuan was somewhat anxious. This brother of his couldn't be reasoned with no matter what. It was simply infuriating. There's no need to say anything else. It definitely won't work this time. Bai Qingli rejected him without hesitation. Luchuan, your strength has always been outstanding. Even if the matter of points is investigated, you should believe in your own strength. Upon hearing this, Bai Luchuan shut his mouth. Thinking about it carefully, what his brother said made sense. Brother Bai, I don't think you need to worry. Even if the matter of buying points is exposed, you can completely blame it on Bewitching and company. You've been doing your best to kill monsters during the competition. I believe that even after deducting your points, you're still worthy of being first place. Bai Liuchuan's gaze turned gentle. You're right, Bai Qingli. The people of the City Lord's mansion quickly took back the identity tokens of each cultivator and began to recalculate the points. To Luchuan, Luchuan to Luchuan. Of course, Luchuan to Liuchuans of the Luchuan. Chapter 66-62. Bai Qingli gave Bailey Hongzhuang a deep look. His eyes were complicated and apologetic. Miss, I'm really sorry for hiding my identity earlier. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her exquisite face became even more beautiful. Sir Bai, you wanted to tell me your identity earlier, but I stopped you. To be honest, you didn't mean to hide it. Bai Qingli saw that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even have the slightest idea about this, and her heart felt even more guilty. Compared to the other party's magnanimity, as a man, he wasn't magnanimous enough. This matter is indeed my responsibility. However, what you said at that time had quite an impact on me. Coupled with the fact that I was being pursued, I didn't say it out loud. I'm grateful to you for saving my life from the bottom of my heart. I wonder if you regret saving me? After much deliberation, Bai Qingli still asked the question in his heart. He clearly remembered that Bailey Hongzhuang had said that she didn't want him to be Bai Qingli, but he was. I should have said earlier that I don't regret saving you. Although your identity is somewhat unexpected, I don't think you and Bai Luchuan are the same kind of people. He is him and you are you. There's no connection between them, so you don't have to take it to heart. If I really cared, I wouldn't have greeted you when I first saw you. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was casual, and there was a trace of openness in her eyes. She really admired Bai Qingli, and she knew very well that he was different from Bai Luchuan. There was no need to mix them up. The troubles in Bai Qingli's heart quickly dissipated with Bailey Hongzhuang's words, and the smile on his face also brightened. I didn't expect you to think so thoroughly. In comparison, I'm the one who's too narrow-minded. No matter what, I'm still very happy to meet you. Me too. Apart from Bewitching and Gong Jun, when Xiren and the others couldn't help but be surprised when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang chatting happily with the City Lord's son. When did Hongzhuang get to know Bai Qingli? I don't know. I've never heard her mention it before. She actually saved his life? Bailey Yunyan's eyes widened. Bai Luchuan and Bai Qingli. Isn't this interesting? Di Xiaofeng and the others couldn't help but raise their eyebrows. Originally, they thought that after offending Bai Luchuan, it was equivalent to offending the City Lord's mansion. Now, after offending Bai Luchuan, they saved Bai Qingli. It seemed like the situation had changed. Madam is really a lucky star. Gong Jun smiled. I think there's no need to be afraid of Bai Luchuan now. Smiles appeared on everyone's faces. They never thought that things would take such a turn in the end. It was really interesting. Even if Bai Qingli had an excellent relationship with Bai Luchuan, it was impossible for her to watch her younger brother target his savior. One was his son, and the other was his nephew. There was no comparison between the two. After the points were recalculated, the rankings changed. Every cultivator's points appeared on the ranking board, but the rankings disappeared. Every time a cultivator's points changed, it would appear on it. With this, everyone realized that there were quite a few people who had faked their points. Chapter 66-63. At that moment, a name suddenly appeared above. When they saw the change in the name's points, everyone's expressions immediately turned interesting. Look, Bai Luchuan actually has so many points that aren't his own. Isn't that too funny? He previously said that Bailey Hongzhuang and company's points were fake, as though his points were real. Almost half of his points were fake. What a joke. Actually, Bai Luchuan has always cheated in this aspect. It's just that no one has exposed him in the past. This time, he probably didn't expect that someone would be even more excessive than him on this point. That's why he jumped out, but he never expected to lose himself. Do you still remember what that woman said earlier? They were captured by Liuchuan's men to earn points. The reason why such a situation happened later on might be to take revenge on Bai Luchuan? Everyone discussed animatedly. Recalling how Bailey Hongzhuang and company were completely indifferent towards Bai Luchuan, they felt that it was very likely the truth. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the change in Bai Liuchuan's points and a playful look appeared in her eyes. This fellow's points really weren't that high. Ignoring everything else, with this exposure, Bai Luchuan was already very odd in everyone's eyes. Damn woman! Bai Luchuan looked viciously at Bailey Hongzhuang. Don't be smug. It will be a real joke when your points are out later. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged indifferently. Let's wait and see. Bai Luchuan snorted coldly. Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude made him even angrier. If these fellows weren't resolved as soon as possible, there would be endless trouble. Young master, everyone's eyes. What should we do? The man behind Bai Luchuan wore a troubled look. Almost at the instant the points changed, everyone's eyes landed on them. They were clearly gloating over their misfortune. What's the big deal? Bai Liuchuan's expression turned cold. When the results are out, my results will definitely be top. When that happens, they will shut up. All these years, he had always been suppressed by Qingli. Now that Bai Qingli was not here, he believed that he would be able to take first place by himself. The man beside him looked at the confident Bai Luchuan with a complicated expression. He knew very well his young master's results over the years. In the past, young noble had always been ranked second, but that was because of the points they had collected. Once these points were no longer counted, young noble would not have such a good ranking. However, looking at the young master beside him who didn't allow him to comment, he could only shut his mouth. Otherwise, if he made the young master unhappy at this time, he would only be the unlucky one. As the cultivators recalculated their points one by one, the city lord's mansion had quite a number of people to begin with, and their collective speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, everything had been recalculated. The points of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were also the focus of everyone's attention. The change in their points was indeed a lot less than before. Even so, everyone looked at them with a strange look in their eyes. Unlike their contempt for Bai Luchuan, there was a hint of surprise. It was as if they hadn't expected them to have such results. Chapter 66-64. Now that the recalculated ranking is out, this is the fairest ranking. Everyone can be completely at ease. Bai Ziyuan waved his hand, and a layer of light flashed on the ranking board. Following that, a brand new ranking appeared in front of everyone's eyes. After seeing the ranking on the ranking board, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips gradually curled into a faint smile. My ranking has actually changed to third place. Shengguan Yingying chuckled. Hongzhuang, you've gone from first place to third place. Why are you smiling so happily? So what? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. She knew in her heart that there was bound to be a gap between her points. In order to save Bai Qingli, she had wasted several days. If it wasn't for the fact that the demon she killed in the end had brought her a lot of points, it was hard to say if she would have been able to enter the top 10. Young master, your name has also appeared on the ranking board. When the man saw Bai Liuchuan's name appear on the ranking board, his face immediately revealed a joyful smile. Bai Luchuan stared blankly at the name on the ranking board, his expression extremely ugly. This is impossible. Yun Xiaoman also looked at the changing rankings in shock. How could their rankings still be so high? On the ranking board, the first place was Di Beichen, the second place was Mo Yunjue, the third place was Bailey Hongzhuang, and the fourth place was Zhongli Mu. However, the fifth place was still not Bai Luchuan, but a cultivator who had previously appeared on the ranking board. The sixth place was Di Xiaofeng, and the seventh place was another unknown man. He knew that the eighth place was Bai Luchuan. Such a ranking was undoubtedly a ruthless slap to Bai Luchuan's face. I remember hearing young Master Bai say that as long as the points are recalculated, you will definitely be first place? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a playful smile. Now it seems that this result is really hard to describe. Her cold voice carried a hint of playfulness, and it could be said that she was not polite at all. I already knew that his strength wasn't good. Otherwise, why would he find so many people to help him accumulate points? Yet, he still wants to push all the problems onto others. This is the funniest part. Shengguan Ying curled her lips, her eyes full of disdain. I didn't expect Bai Luchuan to be the one with the most fake points. Then, didn't that mean that his points in the previous demon-slaying competition were all fake? It was unknown who suddenly mentioned it, but everyone suddenly understood. In the past, Bai Luchuan had always been in second place, but this time he had forcefully become ninth place. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had not been here before, it was obvious that the second place was not his true strength. Bai Ziyuan looked at Bai Luchuan with a complicated gaze. He never expected the usually honest Bai Luchuan to do so many things. Previously, when Qingli came back and suddenly mentioned the recalculation of the points, he felt a little strange. He knew his son very well. Usually, he would not care about such things at all. And he was being hunted down in the demon-slaughtering mountain range. When he connected all these things together, he vaguely felt that something was wrong. No way, no way. Bai Luchuan looked at the blinding name on the ranking board and shouted, something must have gone wrong during the recalculation. This can't be my ranking. Chapter 66-65. Luchuan, it's not a bad thing to face your own strength. Bai Ziyuan said meaningfully before turning his gaze to the crowd. Congratulations to the top 10. Strength is strength. There's no room for deception. Bai Ziyuan's words smashed heavily into Bai Luchuan's heart. In an instant his face turned pale. How could he not understand that his uncle was beating him up? The matter of the points had already been exposed. If he could obtain first place, it would be fine and cover up this matter. But now, with such a ranking, it was truly a joke. Yun Xiaoman looked at Bai Luchuan worriedly. She opened her mouth but didn't say anything in the end. In the current situation, no matter what she said, she wouldn't be able to comfort Bai Luchuan. The following reward ceremony went very smoothly. When Bai Ziyuan handed over the reward for first place to Di Beichen, he suddenly said, "You're right. This is a part of strength." Di Beichen smiled faintly. "Thank you, City Lord." Bai Luchuan didn't accept the reward. Instead, he disappeared from everyone's sight. The so-called 8th place wasn't a reward for him at all. It was a humiliation. He wasn't willing to accept the reward that made him feel humiliated, nor was he willing to admit that he was in 8th place. This wasn't his true strength at all. Bai Ziyuan and Bai Qingli didn't say anything about this. In the end, Bai Luchuan was too willful. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the reward in her hand and couldn't help but laugh. "Gong Jun, you're right. The City Lord's mansion is very generous. This reward is very generous." Of course. Gong Jun had a smug look on his face. Every year, who knows how many people are eyeing the City Lord's mansion's rewards. With these rewards, there's even a glimmer of hope for breaking through to the elementary immortal realm. The City Lord's mansion actually has so many cultivation resources. Di Xiaofeng looked at the reward in his hand. Although his ranking wasn't high, the reward was very useful. Gong Jun nodded. "Let me tell you, being a city lord is a good job. There are so many shops in Shiyun City, and every shop has to hand over a certain amount of things to the City Lord's mansion. Think about it. Isn't the City Lord's mansion very generous?" Hearing this, everyone suddenly understood. They didn't expect the city lord to have such good benefits. Under such circumstances, the resources of the city lord's mansion could be imagined. Boss, you're so powerful. If you have the chance to become a city lord, that would be great. Bewitching and the others chuckled when they heard that. How could it be so easy to become a city lord? There are quite a few cultivation resources rewarded this time. I will go back and refine these medicinal herbs into medicinal pills before handing them over to you. Bailey Hongzhuang put away the heavenly materials and earthly treasures in the reward. Apart from that, there were also some weapons and runes. Everyone could make their own arrangements as they saw fit. Of course, Hongzhuang, your alchemy skills have always been amazing. It's most appropriate to hand these medicinal herbs over to you, Bailey Yunyan said with a smile. Don't worry, I will refine them as soon as possible. I'm afraid Bai Luchuan will cause trouble when he returns this time. Everyone has to be careful. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were as dark as the night. Bai Luchuan had lost face because of them this time. He would definitely not let it go when he returned. It was inevitable that he would cause trouble. Everyone nodded with a solemn expression on their faces. Chapter 66-66. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching returned to their residence, they rested for a few days. Because of the monster's self-destruction, they had not recovered from their injuries. They needed to recuperate well to avoid any lingering effects. Their physical fitness was very good now, and their recovery ability was also very strong. Therefore, after a few days of rest, their bodies had recovered to their original state. Bailey Hongzhuang made a list of the medicinal herbs she needed and gave it to Gong Jun. She wanted to refine the medicinal herbs rewarded by the competition into elixirs. It was inevitable that she would lack some other medicinal herbs, so she had to leave it to Gong Jun to solve. Gong Jun opened the Immortal Treasure Pavilion and had a very close relationship with the medicinal herb shop. Therefore, he quickly brought all the medicinal herbs she needed. Looking at the medicinal herbs in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. In addition to the medicinal herbs I need, you also brought a lot of medicinal herbs? Gong Jun rubbed his hands and smiled. Madam, your alchemy skills have always been good. I have sold most of the elixirs you refined in the demon slaughtering mountain range. However, after I came back this time, I found that the business is unprecedentedly good. Everyone already knows that the elixirs you refine are better than ordinary elixirs, so our Immortal Treasure Pavilion has become their first choice. I have already sent people to collect elixirs from other alchemists, but I still need some elixirs you refine to support the scene. I hope you can help. So, your business now is not worse than that of the Wanbao Pavilion? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. She was very clear about the gap between the Immortal Treasure Pavilion and the Wanbao Pavilion. How could there be such a change in such a short time? Isn't that so? Gong Jun's face was filled with pride. The proportion of cultivators participating in the monstrous slaughter competition in the city is very large. In the past, many people have never bought pills from me. After trying it this time, they understand how effective the pills you refine are. What's more, the price of our elixirs is not more expensive than that of the Wanbao Pavilion. If it weren't for the fact that we have fewer goods than the Myriad Treasure Pavilion, Guanhong Tian wouldn't have been my match. Looking at Gong Jun's happy face, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching looked at each other and smiled. Gong Jun wholeheartedly wanted to improve the business of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. Now that there was such progress, they were very satisfied. Since that's the case, I'll tell you once I've finished concocting the pill. Bailey Hongzhuang received the herbs. Through the herbs that Gong Jun brought, she could tell that he did not want the grade of the pill to be high. With her current alchemy skills, refining these pills didn't require much effort, so she just casually helped out. Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. Gong Jun's face was full of joy. His gaze then turned to Bewitching. Boss, if you have nothing to do, you can also make a few of these formation stones. You don't leave out a single one. Bewitching glanced at him. There was a hint of playfulness and helplessness in his voice. Boss, your formation stones are also selling very well. The Wanbao Pavilion has all kinds of elixirs, but one of the formation stones you made is actually not available in the Wanbao Pavilion. Gong Jun's eyes were full of excitement. You and Madam are simply the signboards of the immortal treasure pavilion. Chapter 66-67. Ever since he had received He Shinjuan's true teachings, Bewitching had been diligently practicing in this area. His array skills were also getting better and better. She had also learned from Bewitching, but her attainments in this area were naturally inferior to his. It's that confinement-killing array. Gong Jun was in high spirits. Ordinary confinement-killing arrays are overlapping confinement arrays and killing arrays. However, Boss's confinement-killing array is the fastest to activate, and its combat strength is extremely strong. After the first customer bought it, it didn't take long for him to come back and buy several more array stones. At that time, I didn't pay too much attention to it. After all, confinement-killing arrays have always been in high demand. However, later on, I discovered that more and more cultivators were buying it, so I went to look into it and found out the problem. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. She also had some understanding of the confinement-killing array's abilities. By activating this array when under threat, it could stall for time and save one's life. If one still had the strength to fight back, they might even take advantage of this opportunity to counterattack. Bewitching, this array of yours is quite impressive. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. In comparison, there were the most brilliant Sun Realm cultivators. At the same realm, other means were also very important. After all, everyone's combat strength was always about the same. I can't compare to my wife. Bewitching chuckled and said to Gong Jun, I know. Don't worry. Thank you, boss. Gong Jun was delighted. I will use the money I earn to buy the cultivation resources I need the most. The best way is to raise my cultivation as soon as possible. You're worth teaching. Bewitching nodded slightly. To him, earning money was not important at all. The most important thing was to raise his cultivation. In their current state, their initial plan was to use array stones, pills, and the like to exchange for cultivation resources. Now that they had a stable partner like Gong Jun, there was no need to say anything more. Ever since the Fiend Slaughter competition ended, the anger in Bai Liuchuan's heart had not dissipated for a long time. Because he had lost so much face in front of so many people, he didn't even have the face to go out. In any case, he was still a well-known figure in Shiyun City. This time, after such a thing happened, an 8th place was a complete disgrace to him. How's the situation with Bewitching and company? Bai Liuchuan asked his subordinate with a cold expression. Sir, they returned to their original residence after the Demon Slaughter competition ended. It is said that they were injured in the Demon Slaughter mountain range. I think they are still recuperating. Injured? Bai Liuchuan narrowed his eyes. These fellows are just stumbling blocks. I have to kill them. Since they are injured, why don't we? Gongzi, now everyone knows about the enmity between you and Bewitching. If something happens to Bewitching and the others now, I'm sure everyone will link it to you. I'm afraid that will be a little troublesome. The man showed a difficult expression and tried to persuade her. Bai Liuchuan snorted coldly. With my background, do you think I'm afraid of them? Even if everyone believes that I did it, so what? They have no relatives or friends in Shiyun City. No one will help them take revenge. Gongzi, that's true. It's not difficult for you to deal with them with your means. However, this Bailey Hongzhuang is Bai Qingli's savior. Chapter 66-68. Bai Liuchuan's expression gradually changed. He could ignore the others, but he had to be wary of Bai Qingli. After all, this fellow was the son of the city lord and had always been stubborn. Even though he and Bai Qingli were brothers, if he killed Bailey Hongzhuang, Bai Qingli would definitely be angry. When the time came, it would hurt the harmony between them. The assassination failed and he had been worried that he would be exposed. After returning, he immediately cut off all the clues. Once Bai Qingli found out that he had something to do with the assassination, then he would really be finished. Fortunately, he had been back for a few days and Bai Qingli had not made any movements. This made him feel more at ease. It's all because of those 3 fellows. Not only did they not kill her, but they also caused Bai Qingli to withdraw from this demon-slaying competition. Instead, it allowed him to preserve his reputation. Young master, it's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. There's no need to rush. Bai Luchuan gradually calmed down and narrowed his eyes. What has Xiao Man been doing recently? Miss Yun is also very tired from this training. She has been recuperating in the side hall. Let her go back to see shopkeeper Guan and tell him about Guan Yi. Hearing this, the man's eyes lit up. Young master wants shopkeeper Guan to take action? It's a fact that Guan Yi died at the hands of Bewitching. I only gave him a chance to take revenge. If it wasn't for Guan Yi, I wouldn't have caused such trouble. Bai Liuchuan's eyes revealed a trace of depression. If he had known that Bailey Hongzhuang and her group would be so troublesome, he would definitely not have taken the initiative to find trouble. However, since it had become like this, he could only persevere to the end and get rid of all these stumbling blocks. It took Bailey Hongzhuang a few days to refine all the medicinal pills. She looked at Di Bei Chen, who was making the array stones. She slowly walked to the side and sat down. Her beautiful face was filled with a gentle smile. She held her chin in one hand and looked at him with interest. After Di Beichen finished making another array stone, he turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Are the pills all done? Of course. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and took out the pills. This part is the reward for the competition, and this part is what Gong Jun asked me to help refine. How is your array stone? I've also made quite a few in the past few days. I was just waiting for you to come out. Di Beichen pulled Bailey Hongzhuang onto his lap and lowered his head to peck her cherry-colored lips. Although it's the same type of array stone, I feel that my technique has improved after practice. Now, the number of times I make them is not the same as when I was in the abandoned immortal forest. Practice is extremely important. The more I practice, the more skilled I become. It just so happens that Gong Jun needs these things very much, so you can give them to him. Bailey Hongzhuang had a serious look on her face. Ever since she started cultivating, her alchemy skills had always been improving, and a large part of the reason was due to her diligent practice. I didn't expect you to be so good at preaching. Di Beichen looked at the serious look of the woman in his arms and felt that there was an indescribable cuteness. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. When she saw Di Beichen's doting eyes, she couldn't help but smile. I'm telling the truth. Stop joking. Chapter 66-69. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, they suddenly realized that there was a large group of people gathered at the entrance. It was bustling with noise coming from inside. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. Did something happen? Let's go take a look. Di Beichen subconsciously held the woman's hand and walked forward. In the crowd, a man with wounds on his body was cursing with righteous indignation. This is the formation stone that your Immortal Treasure Pavilion sells? Not only is it useless, it can't even be activated. It's because of this that I suffered such serious injuries. You have to compensate me. After hearing the man's arrogant words, the surrounding people's expressions became very complicated. Is this real or fake? The Immortal Treasure Pavilion's formation stone can't be activated? I've never heard of such a situation before. My friend clearly said that the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's formation stone is very useful. I didn't expect this to happen. Let's wait and see. If this is really the case, we won't dare to buy anything here in the future. If we can't activate it when it needs to be activated, we'll lose our lives. The Immortal Treasure Pavilion's reputation was very well known now. Many cultivators came because of its reputation. When they suddenly heard this today, they couldn't help but feel frightened. After all, they hadn't bought it before. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown after hearing the man's words. There's a problem with the formation stone? It can't be that you made the formation stone, right? Di Beichen's expression was somewhat serious. The formation stones I make are all confirmed to be successful. There won't be a situation where it can't be activated. Previously, when he was learning from Master Zhong Li, he was told that there must be no problems in this area. Not only that, Senior Zhong Li also taught him how to confirm success. Therefore, when he made the formation stone, he would always check if there were any mistakes. Perhaps the array stones that Gong Jun collected from other places had this problem. Although this is a small probability event, there is still a certain possibility of it happening. There was a trace of worry in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. I'm afraid Gong Jun will have to spend some effort in this regard. Any businessman was most worried about encountering such a situation. If they couldn't handle it properly, it would inevitably affect their future business. Bewitching's gaze inadvertently fell on the Wanbao Pavilion opposite him. Ever since the end of the monster slaying competition, the business of the Wanbao Pavilion had been much worse than before. Gong Jun had always been very careful when doing business. Logically speaking, such a situation shouldn't have happened. Once this accusation was confirmed, the Myriad Treasure Pavilion would benefit the most. It's been a few days since Guan Yi's death, but Guan Hongtian hasn't done anything. It's really not his style. Bewitching said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked towards the Thousand Treasure Pavilion. This was indeed a little strange. Could it be that the Wanbao Pavilion is behind this? Bailey Hongzhuang fell into deep thought. If this wasn't an accident, then it was either the Wanbao Pavilion or Bai Luchuan who did it. These two fellows weren't people who would give up easily. It wasn't easy for them to be quiet these days. Presumably, they couldn't sit still anymore. Let's wait and see for now. In this world, there were many cultivators who followed the opinions of others. Seeing this man's words, immortal treasure pavilions immortal, immortal treasures, immortals? Immortal treasure immortals. Young master, you said that the formation stone came from my celestial treasure pavilion, but it's not confirmed yet. Don't be in a hurry to pin this on my celestial treasure pavilion. Similarly, she did not see Guan Hongtian's figure. However, it was precisely because of this that it was the strangest. Usually, when a competitor encountered a problem, they would definitely come out to watch the show. If they didn't come out now, they probably already knew what was going on outside. At the same time, Guan Hongtian was coldly watching the farce outside the Immortal Treasure Pavilion from a restaurant not far away. Gong Jun, this time I'll start with your Immortal Treasure Pavilion. After this incident, I'd like to see how many people will take care of your business. When he thought of Guan Yi's death, he wished that he could directly kill Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Chapter 66-72. Fortunately, not only had these two guys annoyed him, they had also annoyed Bai Luchuan. Now, he would first destroy the Immortal Treasure Pavilion and cut off Gong Jun's thoughts. First, he would collect some interest. As for their lives, he would find a way to make them accompany Guan Yi in death. Ever since the demon-slaying competition ended, he had noticed that the business of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion was getting better and better. Many of his regular customers had also appeared in the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. This feeling really made him unhappy. Recently, the business of the Wanbao Pavilion had been declining. When the time came, they would also be criticized. When he thought of this, his hatred grew even stronger. Ever since Gong Jun confirmed that the man was deliberately causing trouble and was very likely sent by the Wanbao Pavilion, he had made up his mind, he would never admit it. The things sold by the Immortal Treasure Pavilion have always been strictly inspected. The situation you mentioned would never happen. Recently, our business has been getting better and better. I also know that many people are envious. However, it's too shameless to do such a thing just because of greed. Gong Jun's expression was serious. Everyone here should have bought something from the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. You should know very well what the thing is like. Some people around nodded slightly. The things in the Immortal Treasure Pavilion have always been cheap and beautiful. The price of the elixir is not higher than that of the Wanbao Pavilion, but the effect is much better. That's not a bluff. I bought this trap and kill array before. The effect is indeed excellent. There were no problems. The man did not expect Gong Jun to be so calm in such a situation. With just a few words, he had the hope of clearing all suspicion. This made him even more anxious. This was his mission here. He could not let Gong Jun have his way. Shopkeeper Gong, I also admire your glib tongue. However, this thing came from your shop. It's too ridiculous for you to refuse to admit it. Take a good look at these two array stones. If you don't believe me, take out the other trap and kill array stones in your shop. We will know after comparing them. At this time, the man beside Gong Jun could not help but whisper, "Shopkeeper, this trap and kill array was sold out 2 days ago." Although his voice was soft, it was heard by the man. He immediately laughed mockingly. "What did I hear? Your trap and kill array has been sold out? I think you just don't dare to compare, so you came up with this excuse, right? That's ridiculous. If something like this happens again in the future, any one of you can just come and say that the stock has been sold out and there's no more stock to be replenished. Wouldn't that be like a dead man telling no tales?" Gong Jun frowned. Recently, many things in the shop had indeed been sold out. He tried his best to buy from others, but he could not stop the business. Previously, Boss had indeed promised to help him make some array stones, but he didn't know how it was going. "Go and ask my boss if he has any array stones," Gong Jun instructed. He finally understood that Guan Hongtian had purposely chosen this moment to arouse everyone's suspicions. The trap and kill array. At this moment, a magnetic voice suddenly sounded from the periphery of the crowd. Chapter 66-73. "Boss, you're here." Gong Jun looked at the man in surprise. He didn't expect everything to be so coincidental. Just as he was worrying about the array stone, the boss and the others arrived. With the appearance of Bewitching, everyone's gaze changed. They had long heard that the Immortal Treasure Pavilion had a close relationship with Bewitching, the winner of the demon slaying competition. Now, it seemed that their relationship was indeed very good. "Coincidentally, I brought the array stones here. Now we can compare them." Bewitching raised his right hand, and the Qinquan bag appeared in his hand. "Since this young master wants to compare, then let's compare in front of everyone." Gong Jun looked at Bewitching's confident expression, and his original worry dissipated. He gave the waiter beside him a look, and the waiter immediately ran into the shop and carried a table out. After placing the array stone Bewitching brought on the table, Gong Jun looked at the man. "Come, let's compare." The man obviously didn't expect this to happen, but he didn't panic. He slowly took out his array stone. "Let's compare. This is your store's array stone." In an instant, many cultivators surrounded them. Everyone wanted to see if this was the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's array stone. When the two array stones were placed together, they fell into everyone's sight. The array stones themselves didn't look very different. Only the pattern on the array stones showed the function of the array stones. After careful comparison, the crowd found that the pattern on the two array stones was exactly the same. In addition, this was the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's trap and kill array. There was no other possibility. After seeing this, the expressions of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's attendants became very ugly. This matter had been blown out of proportion. If it was really their fault in the end, their reputation would be greatly reduced. On the second floor of the restaurant, Guan Hongtian listened to his subordinate's report, and a trace of a contemptuous smile appeared in his eyes. "Shopkeeper, will they find out what we're doing?" The attendant at the side was a little worried. The Myriad Treasure Pavilion and the Immortal Treasure Pavilion had always been at odds. This was something that everyone knew. If they didn't succeed in framing the Immortal Treasure Pavilion today, then everyone would definitely blame it on them. At that time, it would be troublesome. Guan Hongtan chuckled. "This formation stone was made by a formation master I specially invited. The lines drawn on the surface are exactly the same as the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's confinement and killing formation, so it's impossible to find any clues. If they want to blame someone, they can only blame themselves for being unique. They just had to push out this kind of formation stone that other shops don't have. Once something happens, they won't be able to get away with it. A confinement killing array that couldn't be activated at all, what methods could the other party have to prove it? Dead men tell no tales. Speaking of which, it was strange. Ever since he heard that the trap and kill array was selling very well, he sent people to buy it and study it. He even found many array masters to decipher the secrets of the trap and kill array. As long as he could figure out how to make this trap and kill array and contribute it to the Wanbao Pavilion, he would definitely be rewarded handsomely. Perhaps his status would also be elevated. However, no matter how many array masters he found, they were unable to simulate all of this. Chapter 66-74. Everyone look clearly. The pattern on this formation stone is exactly the same. You can't deny it now. The man raised his head and questioned loudly, "Everyone, you have to be my witness." Bewitching picked up the man's formation stone and sensed it. He immediately understood where the problem was. "Boss, what's going on? Did they imitate the trap and kill Array?" Gong Jun asked Bewitching telepathically. He didn't believe that this thing was really sold by the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. With Guan Hongtian's methods, it wouldn't be difficult for him to create such a situation. The other party must have tampered with the pattern on this formation stone and imitated it exactly. However, they didn't figure out how to create the trap and kill Array, so they only imitated the surface, Bewitching said in a low voice. Gong Jun immediately understood. However, even if he understood this matter, it was useless. After all, the others wouldn't accept such an explanation at all. "Boss, do you have any way to prove this point?" Gong Jun turned his gaze to Bewitching. He wasn't a formation master and didn't know much about this. Even though he knew very well that there was probably no way to solve this problem, it would be troublesome if he couldn't give a reasonable explanation in front of so many people. "It's not my formation stone. Naturally, I have a way." Bewitching's lips curled up slightly. His formation skills wouldn't allow others to slander him like this. Gong Jun, who was just probing, suddenly heard Bewitching's affirmative answer. He couldn't help but be surprised. For a moment, he even suspected that he had misheard. "Boss, you said you have a way to prove it?" "That's right," Bewitching said with certainty. Hearing this, the worry in Gong Jun's heart dissipated, and he was completely at ease. The pattern on these two formation stones does look the same, but this isn't the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's formation stone. Gong Jun raised his head, his round face full of seriousness and sternness. "This is simply an array stone that you use to frame others." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present couldn't help but be stunned. The other party had already produced ironclad evidence, yet Gong Jun actually still denied it so firmly? When the injured man saw Gong Jun's confident appearance, he panicked for no reason. However, he quickly calmed down. The plan this time was flawless. It was impossible for the other party to break it. "The two array stones are clearly the same, yet you still refuse to admit it. Aren't you a little too shameless?" The man's face was full of indignation. "I bought this array stone from you. There's no such thing as framing someone else." At this moment, Bewitching also stood up. "The array stones of this death trap array were created by me. I am very clear about every single one of them. This one is indeed not made by me." His voice wasn't very loud, but it carried a special kind of magic. It caused the originally extremely noisy environment to suddenly become silent. Everyone looked at him seriously, waiting for his reasonable explanation. The injured man originally wanted to take advantage of the chaos to arouse everyone's indignation. He didn't think that after spending so much effort to make everyone angry, Bewitching would only need to open his mouth to pacify everyone. Wasn't the difference a little too big? Chapter 66-75. Bewitching faintly glanced at the man, his sharp eyes carrying an unparalleled sharpness, and the man could not help but shut his mouth. "The formation stones that I made look no different from ordinary formation stones, but each formation stone has my mark on it." Hearing this, the man was stunned. "What kind of joke is this? How did you leave a mark on such a small stone?" "Look carefully." Bewitching took out his own array stone. On one side of it, there were a few tiny marks. "These are the marks I left behind." In the next second, Bewitching took out a few more array stones from his heavenly pouch. "Look carefully. Every single stone has my mark." The man didn't believe it. He took all the documents and looked through them. After looking through them, his face turned pale. He never thought that someone would leave a mark on an array stone. This was far too strange. As a result, they had truly made a mistake this time. Gong Jun also didn't realize there was a mark on the stone. Now that he saw it clearly, his eyes were full of excitement. His boss truly had foresight. This kind of small mark would have been assumed by a normal person. If they didn't look at it carefully, they wouldn't have noticed. However, this also happened to be their evidence. How do I know you didn't do this on purpose? The man's face was white and he couldn't help but to panic. If he didn't succeed this time, he would be punished when he returns. Most importantly, it was difficult for him to find a way out. What you said is interesting. We didn't even know that you would come looking for trouble today, so how could we have been one step ahead of you in making the array stones? Gong Jun retorted. The man opened his mouth, not knowing how to explain himself. He was going crazy. Why would someone choose to leave a mark on something like this? At this moment, everyone looked at the man's expression. How could they not understand the truth of the matter? I really didn't expect this man to come here today to frame me. I almost believed him earlier. The things in the Immortal Treasure Pavilion are cheap and beautiful. Recently, their business has been booming. I'm afraid there are people who can't stand it anymore. That's why they came up with such a method. In the future, you really can't believe such words. If it wasn't for the fact that there was a mark on the formation stone, then the Immortal Treasure Pavilion would have really been swindled. Everyone shook their heads and sighed, looking at the man with eyes full of disgust. Seeing this, the man didn't have the face to stay any longer. He immediately turned around and left the crowd. Seeing this, the crowd sighed again and couldn't help but look at the Wanbao Pavilion. The Myriad Treasure Pavilion was the most dissatisfied with the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. The two sides had always been competitors. Coupled with the grudge between Bewitching and Guan Yi, it was expected that something like this would happen. Thank you, everyone, for witnessing today. Our Immortal Treasure Pavilion has always done business properly. Unfortunately, there are always people who find ways to cause trouble. I hope everyone can believe in our Immortal Treasure Pavilion's character. We will definitely not sell things that are not up to standard. Of course we believe you. Everyone smiled faintly. Chapter 66-76. Guan Hongtian had been waiting for a good show. Once the Celestial Treasure Pavilion's reputation was tarnished, it would be impossible for them to make a comeback. He wanted to cut off their source of income. In the entire Shiyun city, as long as he and Master Bai worked together, they wouldn't be able to sell their things even if they wanted to. However, just as he was waiting for the show to get bigger and bigger, he found that the person he found had left with his tail between his legs. What's going on? Guan Hongtian's face immediately darkened. Didn't I tell you? Could it be that the person you found couldn't even do such a simple thing? Feeling Guan Hongtian's anger, the attendant's heart tightened. He quickly said, Manager Guan, this person has always been good at this kind of thing. Logically speaking, this shouldn't have happened. I'm afraid there's been a change in the situation. What change could there be? A bunch of trash. Guan Hongtian cursed. Go and find out what's going on right now. Yes, I'll go right away. The attendant didn't dare to stay any longer and quickly ran out. Guan Hongtian stood there with a gloomy face. If today's matter didn't work, the Celestial Treasure Pavilion would be the one to be implicated. Bailey Hongzhuang saw that the Celestial Treasure Pavilion was even livelier than before, and a joyful smile appeared on her face. Now that today's misunderstanding has been resolved, even if someone tries to slander the Celestial Treasure Pavilion in the future, people won't believe it so easily. People were like this. Once someone was wrongly accused and cleared their name, if something like this happened again in the future, people would think it was a repeat of the same story. This Guan Hongtian is really despicable. I can't believe he came up with such a plan. Gong Jun was a little scared. Fortunately, Boss was far-sighted and left such an excellent mark on this little formation stone. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to clear our name even if we jumped into the Yellow River. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Baichen in surprise. How did you come up with the idea of leaving a mark on the formation stone? I learned it from Master. Di Baichen smiled faintly. When I was studying earlier, I found that my master had a habit of leaving a mark on the things he made. He said that this was to be responsible for his own things. Once the things you make aren't good, you'll be ruining your reputation. Bailey Hongzhuang thought about Zhong Li Xiaoran's usually strict appearance, and understood in her heart. Senior Zhong Li had always been a very serious person. Whether it was towards others or towards himself, he always had high expectations. This kind of habit was indeed very much in line with his personality. Boss, it turns out that your master is also so powerful. Gong Jun's face was full of admiration. This time, Guan Hongtian must have been caught unprepared. Since he failed to slander us, everyone naturally thought of them, but what? Gong Jun's brows gradually furrowed, and a thought-provoking look appeared on his face. I've fought with Guan Hongtian for a long time, so I have some understanding of his character. He's not a scheming person. I originally thought that after learning of Guan Yi's death, he would definitely come looking for trouble immediately. However, instead of directly rushing to our door and yelling about killing us, he instead used this method. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. Compared to the previous public appearance of trouble, Guan Hongtian's secret scheme was much more troublesome. Chapter 66-77. Bai Luchuan hasn't made any moves yet. It's also not in line with his personality. Gong Jun frowned. Although he looked the same as usual on the surface, he had always been on guard. He was prepared to deal with the other party's methods at any time. However, the situation had exceeded his expectations. The two of them hadn't come looking for trouble first. Bai Luchuan shouldn't dare to make a move for the time being. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. I previously told Bai Qingli that Bai Luchuan has been playing tricks behind her back. I believe Bai Qingli is also concerned about this. Bai Luchuan is currently busy dealing with her, so he shouldn't be able to find trouble with us for the time being. Upon hearing this, Gong Jun understood. So that's how it is. I was wondering why Bai Liuchuan's personality suddenly changed. Now that the Myriad Treasure Pavilion has gone for wool and come home shorn, I think they will temporarily stop for a few days before they eliminate this negative impact, Di Beichen said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the pills she had refined and placed them on the counter. These are the herbs you asked me to help you refine. I've already refined them all. Do as you see fit. With that said, she took out some more pills. These are for Yen Che and the others. They should be coming to get them in a few days. Help me hand them over. Gong Jun nodded repeatedly. Madam, don't worry. I will definitely teach them properly. Di Beichen also handed all the array stones to Gong Jun before saying, these things should be enough for the Immortal Treasure Pavilion to hold on for a while. The City Lord's Mansion's rewards are very generous. The pills refined are also very suitable for our current cultivation level. Hongzhuang and I plan to go into seclusion for a while. I hope our strength can increase. Part of the reason for going out to train was for combat experience, and the other part was for cultivation resources. Although the cultivation resources in the abandoned Immortal Forest were considered rich, there was still a large gap between them and the outside world. Now that they had an abundance of cultivation resources on hand, they naturally had to work hard to cultivate and improve their cultivation. I understand. Boss and Madam will only be able to protect me if they become stronger. Gong Jun chuckled. Don't worry. With me looking after the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, there won't be any problems. Di Beichen nodded slightly. If you need anything, you can come to us. I understand. After giving some instructions, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen went back to their secluded meditation. Ever since they had witnessed the power of that demon, they had deeply understood how difficult it was to break through to the elementary immortal stage. At the very least, with their current cultivation, they were too far away from the elementary celestial stage. If they wanted to reach the same cultivation level as the demonic beasts, they would have to work hard and cultivate for a long time. However, before going into seclusion, the two of them made a trip back to the D family. No matter what, their family was the most important. When they went out to train, they had to go back to visit when they had the time. Fortunately, everything in the family was in order and there were no problems. The only pity was that even though the family head and the rest had spent a lot of effort, they still could not find Xiao Sou's whereabouts. This made them feel uneasy. Xiao Sou was not an easy person to deal with, and along the way, they were very clear that luck was a very mysterious but very special thing. Chapter 66-78. Diu Jue naturally understood Di Beichen's concerns and promised to continue the search. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and Diu Jue also understood that the chances of finding Xiao So under these circumstances were not high. So many people have been searching for her, but they still haven't found her. She's quite good at hiding. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. Thinking back to the ancient battlefield, Xiao Sou's strength had also increased by quite a bit. Coupled with Shu Yu's careful guidance, her strength should have improved quite a bit as well. Shu Yu isn't with Xiao So right now. Father and the others have already asked around, but they couldn't find any clues. Now that I think about it, it's quite troublesome. Neither of them spoke, but there was an indescribable premonition in their hearts. They vaguely felt that they would meet Xiao So again in the future. After putting this matter aside, Bailey Hongzhuang and Diu Jue left a portion of the blood spirit stones they had obtained from the monster slaughtering competition with the family. Because the cultivation resources that the two of them brought back were extremely precious to the D family, after a few times, the D family began to implement a new reward and punishment system. Every 3 months, the young cultivators of the D family would have a competition. The winning cultivator would receive a certain amount of rewards. Under this kind of reward system, every cultivator put in a lot of effort. It was precisely because of this subtle change that the D family's current strength was not something that the major forces of the upper realm dared to underestimate. Everyone understood that although these were only the younger generation and did not affect the major forces for the time being, in a few more years, these juniors would become the mainstays of the major forces. When that time came, the situation would naturally change. After the two of them returned to the immortal region, they went into closed-door cultivation. Bai Li Yanche and the others also went into closed-door cultivation after obtaining the pills from Gong Jun. They went into closed-door cultivation for 3 months. When Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes, a black and white light flashed in her eyes. Very quickly, they returned to their usual black color. A satisfied smile appeared on her face as she sensed that her body was much more abundant than before. The city lord had rewarded her with many resources, and the medicinal herbs were all prepared for cultivators of their level. With the help of the pills and enough blood spirit stones, her strength had improved quite a bit. This time, she had only used 1 pill. As an alchemist, she knew very well that pills were very helpful for cultivators. However, using them too frequently could lead to dependence, so she had always been careful about this point. For the rest of her time, she used the blood spirit stone to cultivate in order to consolidate her cultivation. Other than the pills he had taken, there were still 2 pills left. It would be a good choice to go into seclusion after a while. She raised her eyes to look at Bewitching, who was still cultivating beside her. She did not disturb him and quietly walked out of the room. The Radiant Sun realm is indeed a very strange realm. After cultivating for so long, I only feel that this realm is like a vast ocean. Even though I can feel the improvement of my origin power, I know even more clearly that there is still a very long road ahead. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head to look at the bright sunlight. The weather had unknowingly turned cold. The sunlight that shone on her body was less scorching and more warm. Chapter 66-79. How rare. You actually know how to comfort me now. Bailey Hongzhuang rubbed Xiao Hei's head. It had to be said that Xiao Hei's head felt really good to the touch. Hee, I'll grow up too. Xiao Hei's hair was dyed slightly red, making her seem even more adorable. At this moment, a series of footsteps suddenly rang out from outside the door. As soon as she heard the heavy footsteps, Bailey Hongzhuang already knew who it was. Without waiting for the other party to knock on the door, she directly opened the courtyard door. The person did not seem to have expected the door to suddenly open. He was stunned at first before smiling. "Madam, you've emerged from seclusion." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. "I've only just emerged from seclusion, and I've already run into you. It can't be that coincidental, right? Madam really is smart. Actually, this is already the 3rd time I've come. I just wanted to try my luck and see when you and boss would emerge from seclusion." Gong Jun rubbed the back of his head with a naive look on his face. "But what happened? It's actually nothing major. Didn't Madam tell me to pay attention to the city lord of Qingyang City? I've been trying to find out more about this recently." Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. Is there any news about the city lord of Qingyang City? It'll be the city lord's birthday in a few days. The city lord's estate will hold a banquet according to past customs. The city lord of Qingyang City is on extremely good terms with our city lord, and they've always been in contact with each other. He obviously won't be absent from the city lord's birthday banquet. Gong Jun smiled. So I thought that since there's a chance to meet the city lord of Qingyang City, why don't we give it a try? That's fantastic. Bailey Hongzhuang was unable to hide her joy. She had always thought that if she wanted to obtain the illusory form pearl, she would probably have to make a trip to Qingyang City. She never thought that the city lord of Qingyang City would come to Cloud Gathering City before they even made a move. It really couldn't be any better. She could not help but think about how Bai Qingli had once said that she would find a way to help her obtain the illusory form pearl back in the labyrinth. She didn't take it to heart at first, but now it seemed that Bai Qingli really had the ability. Madam, the city lord Manners sent this over a few days ago. Gong Jun handed the 2 invitations to her. Originally, these invitations were sent to you, but because you were in closed-door cultivation, they were sent to the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. Bailey Hongzhuang opened the invitation and found that it was an invitation to the city lord's birthday. This should have been sent by Bai Qingli. Madam is his savior, he can't forget about you. Gong Jun's face was full of joy. Because of boss and madam, I had the chance to go to the city lord's mansion to take a look. That would be great. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully looked at the date and found that the birthday celebration was in 7 days. By that time, Beichen should have already come out of seclusion. Madam, this is the city lord's birthday celebration. We still have to prepare a gift, Gong Jun said after some thought. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Since they were going, they naturally could not avoid the gift. However, with the city lord's status, the gift they had to give couldn't be too simple. What do you think we should give? I've already chosen a few things. Logically speaking, they don't need to be too expensive. Just a few things worth admiring and playing with will do. I'm at ease with you handling things. Then I'll leave this to you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She had never been very good at this aspect. Having a know-it-all like Gong Jun was really the best. Chapter 6680. Have Bai Luchuan and Guan Hongtian been up to anything recently? Bailey Hongzhuang asked after putting away the invitation. Gong Jun shook his head slightly. I don't know what's wrong with them, but they've been very quiet recently. Nothing's happened. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang was relieved. It wasn't until Gong Jun left that she sat down on a stone bench in the courtyard. There was a thoughtful look on her face. Master, what are you thinking about? Xiao He jumped onto the table and tilted her head to look at her master in puzzlement. I'm just thinking that Bai Luchuan and Guan Hongtian have been too quiet recently. It's a little strange. Perhaps they know that master is not to be trifled with, so they've temporarily stopped. I hope so. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Although in my heart, they aren't such tactful people. As the city lord's birthday approached, the entire Shiyun city seemed to be livelier. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw that Di Beichen hadn't come out of seclusion, she thought that perhaps only she and Gong Jun would be going together today. However, just as she was about to set off, Beichen exited his cultivation state. Wife, are you ready to set off? Di Beichen stood up. His picturesque eyebrows were beautiful to begin with, and his gentle voice was even more touching. I thought you wouldn't be able to make it today, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Wait for me for a moment. I'll change my clothes. All right. Boss, wait. Just as Di Beichen was about to go in to change his clothes, he saw a round figure roll in like a ball. There was a look of anxiety on his face. What's the matter? Stopping in his tracks, Di Beichen looked at Gong Jun in puzzlement. Could something have happened at this critical juncture? Who knew that after Gong Jun stopped, he had a smile on his face. Boss, today is the city lord's birthday. We have to dress formally. You and madam usually dress too simply. I specially sent someone to customize a set of clothes for you today. Quick, put on the clothes I prepared for you. Gong Jun handed the clothes in his hand to Di Beichen, his eyes full of anticipation. Today is the city lord's birthday, not ours. Why do we need to dress so grandly? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. She had never spent too much effort in this regard, as long as she was not rude. You usually like to wear white, but today is a happy occasion. It's not good to wear white. Listen to me and change. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it and felt that Gong Jun's words were very polite. Looking at the red and white clothes in her hand, it was very appropriate, so she did not refuse. All right then. Wait for us for a moment. We'll come out after changing. Soon, Bailey Hongzhuang finished changing. Feeling the texture of the clothes, a look of satisfaction appeared on her face. Gong Jun had obviously spent some effort on the clothes. The material was very comfortable. It was as thin as a cicada's wing and had a great touch. The size was indeed tailor-made. Wife, I'm done. Bewitching slowly walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. His face was full of smiles, like a spring breeze, or like spring returning to the earth. Looking at the handsome man with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be shocked. Chapter 6681. Hongzhuang had always known that Beichen was extremely good-looking, but this appearance of wearing luxurious clothes gave her a completely different feeling. Beichen looked at the woman in red in front of him, and a trace of amazement flashed across his brows. Different from her usual elegance and purity, there was a trace of enchanting charm, which made people's eyes light up. Oh my God, this is amazing! Gong Jun looked at the two people in front of him in admiration and couldn't help but applaud. My taste. TSK, this dress suits you too well. Looking at Gong Jun's exaggerated expression, Bailey Hongzhuang and Beichen couldn't help but chuckle. All right, you don't have to show off. It's not appropriate to be late on a day like today. Hee, let's go now. The three of them walked towards the city lord's mansion, and along the way, they met many people who were also going to the city lord's mansion to deliver gifts. Looking at such a large scale, Xiao He couldn't help but say in surprise, there are actually so many people attending the city lord's birthday banquet? This is simply a grand occasion. Gong Jun smiled faintly. You don't know this, but it's the city lord's birthday banquet. Everyone naturally wants to express their sincerity, but most people only send congratulatory gifts. There aren't many who actually attend. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood this kind of situation couldn't be more normal. The city lord's status in the city was not to be underestimated, especially when doing business. Everyone had to rely on the city lord. On such a day, even if they weren't qualified to attend, they definitely couldn't be lacking in etiquette. When the three of them arrived at the city lord's mansion, they saw City Lord Bai Ziyuan and Bai Qingli standing outside the door to welcome guests. Congratulatory voices resounding everywhere, and the entire City Lord's mansion was filled with a joyous scene. Miss Bailey, young Master D, you're here. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Bai Qingli quickly walked over, a rare smile appearing on his handsome face. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and cupped her hands. Congratulations, we're here to celebrate the City Lord's birthday. Come, please come in. Bai Qingli waved his hand and a servant took the congratulatory gifts from Gong Jun's hands, and the three of them walked in front of Bai Ziyuan. Congratulations to the city lord on his birthday. After seeing them, Bai Ziyuan smiled. Thank you, please come in. Almost everyone who came here was trying to find a way to say a few words to the city lord. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others no longer bothered them, and under the personal guidance of Bai Qingli, they entered the city lord's mansion. Unlike the outside, it was 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 not as luxurious as the outside, the inside, it was not like the inside, there was a feeling of a secluded mountains. At this moment, there was an endless stream of servants and maids. All kinds of fruits and snacks were constantly being served, and the wine and tea emitted a faint fragrance. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. She hadn't seen such a lively scene for a long time. There are many snacks prepared here. If there's anything you like, just try it. There's no need to be restrained. Bai Qingli was very friendly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, looking at the man's rosy face. She smiled and said, "It seems that you've been doing well recently." Chapter 6682. Thinking of this, Bai Qingli was extremely grateful to Bailey Hongzhuang. He was also very aware of how good the medical skills of the pharmacists in the city lord's mansion were. So when he heard from this person that Bailey Hong Zhuang's medical skills were far better than his heart was shocked. Because Bailey Hong Zhuang was just too young. Although he was also shocked when he was saved, he only understood how difficult it was for him to keep his life after coming back. This was also his luck. The heavens left him a way out. This is also because you've been recuperating since you came back. Seeing Bai Qingli's complexion, Bailey Hong Zhuang knew that he had recovered. The self-destruction of humans and monsters were different. Although she and Beichen were injured, their foundation was not damaged. Compared to Bai Qingli, their injuries were much lighter. That's right, the city lord of Qingyang City I told you before will also come today. When the time comes, I will think of a way to get the illusion form bead for you. Don't worry. Bai Qingli gave her a look. Compared to Bailey Hong Zhuang's life-saving grace, the cultivation resources he gave her back then were nothing. He had always felt like he owed her. Fortunately, he knew that Bailey Hong Zhuang cared a lot about the illusion form bead. As long as he could find the illusion form bead, he would have a way to repay her. Seeing the man's serious appearance, Bailey Hong Zhuang thought for a moment before saying, "Then thank you, Sir Bai." She really did need the illusion form bead, but with her status, it was too difficult to get it from the city lord of Qingyang City. It was much easier for Bai Qingli to do this. "You're welcome, it's what I should do." Bai Qingli smiled and said, "You guys take a seat first, I still have to greet the guests." "Hurry up and get busy." Only after Bai Qingli left did Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others continue to walk inside. "Beichen, you guys are here." Hearing a surprised voice, Di Beichen turned his head and saw Di Xiaofeng, Mo Yunjue, and Zhongli Mu walking over. "Today, you guys?" Di Xiaofeng looked at the two people in front of him with surprise. "Looks really extraordinary." Zhongli Mu was also surprised. "You guys look really good today." Suddenly being praised, Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and heard him say with a smile, "This is all Gong Jun's idea. If you're interested, ask him to tell you the name of the shop and you can order a few custom-made." Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows. "The weather is getting colder. Yunyan should buy some clothes. Gong Jun, you have to tell me later." "Big brother, there's no need for you to worry. Leave it to me." Gong Jun was as friendly as ever. Ever since he found out that Di Xiaofeng was Beichen's big brother, he called him that. Di Xiaofeng didn't care about this. This guy's personality was like this, but it wasn't annoying. "Look, Bai Luchuan is right in front." Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows and pointed not far away. Bailey Hong Zhuang followed the line of sight, and sure enough, she met Bai Liuchuan's gaze, which was still too late to retract. It was full of resentment as usual. From this, it could be seen that even though this guy had stopped for a while, this matter was still on his mind. Chapter 6683. Upon hearing this, Bailey Hong Zhuang revealed a look of understanding. As expected, this guy was definitely not someone who would stop easily. After being locked up for a few months, I'm afraid he hates us even more now, Mo Yunjue said coldly. Wan Hongtian is right beside Bai Luchuan. These two fellows might pull some dirty tricks when they get together. You guys have to be prepared. At this moment, a slightly unfamiliar voice sounded behind Di Beichen. Everyone could not help but turn their heads. Gong Jun looked at the stranger in front of him with a complicated expression. They didn't have any interactions with this person, but he suddenly said such words. It seemed that he understood their situation very well. Bailey Hong Zhuang sized up the man in front of her. For some reason, she vaguely felt that she had seen this person somewhere before, but she could not remember where. She did not have a deep impression of him. However, after Di Beichen looked at the man for a moment, the corners of his lips curled into a faint smile. "So it's you. I really didn't expect you to be first in this competition. If I had known, I wouldn't have told you," the man said with a chuckle. After Bailey Hong Zhuang heard this, she thought carefully for a moment before remembering where she had seen this person before. "That's the person who told us to get the numbered identity card back then." "Miss, you have a good memory. I thought you had forgotten about me." The man chuckled. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Mu Haiqing." Just as Di Beichen was about to introduce himself, he heard the man say, Young Master D, Miss Bailey, I already know. Everyone has amazed everyone in the demon slaying competition. There aren't many people in Shiyun City who don't know you. I didn't expect to see young Master Mu here again. Nice to meet you. Mu Haiqing cupped his hands. It's fate that brought us together. I don't have any ill intentions. I just want to remind you that I vaguely heard that Bai Luchuan and Guanhong Tian seem to have some plans. In short, these two people are full of evil tricks. It's always good to be on guard at all times. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows revealed a trace of surprise. This person is really interesting. Could it be that he likes to meddle in other people's business? If it were an ordinary person, they would definitely not be willing to offend Guan Bai Luchuan. They would not get involved in such matters if they could. However, this person actually took the initiative to get involved. After saying this, Mu Haiqing turned around and walked away. This person is strange. He said such a sentence without any rhyme or reason. I wonder if he is a friend or foe. Di Baichen looked at Gong Jun. Have you heard of this person? Mu Haiqing, this name sounds familiar to me, but I can't recall it at the moment. Let me think about it first. Gong Jun's brows were tightly knitted. So far, nothing had happened. If they were too nervous, they would be at a disadvantage. Qingyang City's city lord has arrived. At this moment, a loud voice sounded from outside the door. Hearing this voice, everyone present could not help but look outside the door. In their line of sight, a tall and straight figure slowly appeared in front of Bai Ziun. Brother Yang, welcome, welcome. Chapter 6685. Ha, you're an honored guest. It's not a big deal today, so I've troubled you to come. Bai Ziyuan smiled. You're treating me like an outsider. We've known each other for many years. How could I not come to your birthday celebration? Yang Han turned to the man and woman behind him and said, Quickly greet Uncle Bai. Uncle Bai. Bailey Hongzhuang saw a very young man and woman. The two people's eyebrows were somewhat similar. Obviously, they were brother and sister. Nephew and niece are both here. Quickly come in. Bai Ziyuan called Bai Qingli and Bai Luchuan over. You young people can interact with each other. Father, don't worry. Bai Qingli nodded. Bai Ziyuan did not continue to stand outside the door. Clearly, he had been waiting outside for City Lord Yang's arrival. As everyone took their seats, the banquet officially began. City Lord Bai was not very formal, so the entire City Lord's mansion was very comfortable. Xiao He and Xiao Bai ate the snacks in front of them to their heart's content. The food the City Lord's mansion took out to entertain people was naturally not bad. It was much better than what they usually ate in restaurants. During this process, many people took the initiative to befriend Di Baichen and the others. After all, they were first place in the demon slaying competition. There was no harm in befriending such young talents. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze fell into the distance. There were many alchemists participating in the banquet today. Ever since the competition ended, she had wanted to get to know some alchemists. She did not know much about the demon crystal alchemy, and she had never tried to refine it directly. If she could take advantage of today's opportunity to befriend a few people, it would be very good. However, she did not know much about the people of Shiyun City. It was not appropriate to rashly disturb them. In this regard, Gong Jun was also unable to help. He was a businessman. Although alchemists often dealt with shops and auctions, they were often unwilling to pay attention to such occasions. It was as if this was the only way to show their noble temperament. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was deep in thought, Bai Qingli walked over again. Miss Bailey, let me introduce you. This is Apothecary Wei Shang. He is also the apothecary who often treats me. A man who looked to be in his 50s stood beside Bai Qingli. Unlike the arrogance of the other pharmacists, he had a kind of amiable kindness. When he saw Bailey Hongzhuang, he was the first to smile. Little friend Bailey, nice to meet you. Greetings, Medicine Master Wei, Bailey Hongzhuang said politely. Ever since Medicine Master Wei saw my injuries, he's been hoping to get to know you. Since we're all here today, why don't you have a chat? Bai Qingli winked at Bailey Hongzhuang and transmitted her voice. Medicine Master Wei is very famous in Shiyun City. He can be considered a highly respected senior. thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She secretly thought that Bai Qingli was very smart. She knew what she needed and immediately sent it over. Since this person was highly respected, he must be very skilled in alchemy. If she did not understand anything, she could ask him for advice. Little friend Bailey, I saw that Qingli's injuries were very serious. I wonder what kind of medicine you used to improve his condition? To be honest, your comprehension in this aspect is much deeper than mine, Yi Zichen said with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. Looking at the situation, wasn't Wei Shang a little too careless? Little friend, you can just call me by my name. After all, you're much younger than me. It's not good for me to address you as my senior. How about we treat each other as equals? Looking at Wei Shang's expectant expression, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head. She couldn't help but think of the few old fellows she knew in the past. They also had the same personality. It was really nostalgic. Then I'll overstep. No. Chapter 6687. Wei Shang's status among the pharmacists in Shiyun City was not simple. Guan Hongtian did not expect Bai Qingli to take such good care of Bailey Hongzhuang and specially introduce her to Pharmacist Wei. From the way they chatted happily, Pharmacist Wei should also be very fond of Bailey Hongzhuang. He had thought that these guys had just arrived in Shiyun City and that it would be easy to take them down. He did not expect that in just a short period of time, these guys' foundation would become more and more stable. Young Master Luchuan, Bai Qingli takes such good care of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. If this continues, it will be even more difficult for us to take them down in the future. Guan Hongtian looked to his side worriedly. Previously, due to the framing incident, the Wanbao Pavilion's reputation had been greatly affected. Their business had also suffered a lot. On the other hand, the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's reputation was becoming more and more resounding. In the end, the Immortal Treasure Pavilion had always relied on Di Baichen's confinement-killing array and Bailey Hongzhuang's pills. In fact, he knew very well that although the two of them had always been providing the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, they had put more effort into cultivation. Therefore, these could only be the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's last resort. However, recently, some pharmacists and refiners in the city had turned to the Immortal Treasure Pavilion for sale. This made him very unhappy. Evil King's beloved wife, arrogant demon concubine, is too heaven-defying. In the past, the Wanbao Pavilion had always been everyone's first choice. Isn't it all because of your incompetence in the past? Bai Luchuan looked at Guan Hongtian with disdain. It was clearly a good hand, but this guy had ruined it. I didn't expect this to happen. Then why didn't you buy a few more array stones back then and study them properly? Wouldn't you have found the problem if you had observed more? Bai Luchuan said coldly. Guan Hongtian was speechless. He had indeed failed in that matter, but leaving a mark on an array stone was indeed something that had never happened before. Be careful in the future. If something like this happens again, don't expect me to help you. Bai Liuchuan's gaze turned to Bailey Hongzhuang. This woman was becoming more and more smug. It made him very unhappy. Let's wait for a good show today. I'll let them have a good taste of what it's like to be defeated. His pitch-black eyes narrowed slightly, revealing resentment and viciousness. Because of these guys, it was the first time he had been punished by the city lord, and he had been confined for so long. It was simply a great humiliation. Sister Qinxue, why are you here alone? I thought brother was taking care of you. Bai Luchuan walked to Yang Qinxue's side with a smile. Yang Qinxue raised her eyebrows. Brother Qingli brought Pharmacist Wei over there. They must be busy. Perhaps the commonly used pills weren't much, but there were some pills that cultivators couldn't take too many times. Naturally, the better the effect, the better. Even so, it's not easy to refine the impurities in the demon crystal. Wei Shang looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's happy expression and knew that she was oversimplifying things, so she deliberately emphasized the main point. The demon crystals of these monsters often contain a lot of violent qi, blood, cruelty, and other negative emotions. Only by completely removing these things can the best effect be brought out. According to our current progress, There are very few medicine masters who can completely remove these impurities. Aside from a few occasional situations where it could be done, it was extremely difficult to do so at any other time. Chapter 6689. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded in understanding. Monsters hadn't been around for a long time, and all the pharmacists in Xi'an City were probably researching them. It would take a lot of time to thoroughly study them. However, she had a few more tricks up her sleeves than the average pharmacist. Since she possessed both darkness and light attributes, it would be easier for her to remove the impurities compared to people with other attributes. Regardless, she would go back and do some research after today's birthday banquet. Wei Shang saw the expression on Bailey Hongzhuang's face and understood that his words had not stopped her curiosity. Thinking about it, such a young girl already had such achievements. Even if she spent more time studying it, what's the point of it? As a pharmacist, it was important to maintain some curiosity. Little friend Bailey, you haven't been in Xi'an City for long. Coincidentally, there are many pharmacists here today. How about I introduce you to the other pharmacists? Wei Shang loved Bailey Hongzhuang from the bottom of his heart. At his age, the happiest thing for him was to see a young person doing well. There were many people in the city whose medical skills couldn't compare to Bailey Hongzhuang's, but they were much more impetuous and arrogant. Bailey Hongzhuang was such a simple-minded girl, but she was like a clear stream, making people like her very much. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up and saw the kindness and admiration in Wei Shang's eyes. She nodded in agreement. Thank you very much, Pharmacist Wei. You're welcome. With your strength, as long as you continue to stay in Xi'an City, you'll get to know these people sooner or later. After greeting Bewitching, Bailey Hongzhuang followed Wei Shang to where the other pharmacists were gathered. Pharmacist Wei. Pharmacist Wei. The pharmacists who were chatting happily restrained themselves when they saw Wei Shang appear. Their postures were respectful. Wei Shang smiled faintly. Long time no see, everyone. Pharmacist Wei is usually busy studying medicine and rarely goes out. Naturally, it's rare to see him. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to meet him today. Pharmacist Wei, this one has something to ask of you today. In the blink of an eye, the group of pharmacists had surrounded Wei Shang. As for Bailey Hongzhuang behind him, she was completely ignored. Seeing this, Wei Shang suddenly spoke up. Everyone, please calm down. We'll talk about this matter later. Today, I'd like to introduce a little friend to everyone. He turned his head and pushed Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him. Little friend Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills are already outstanding at such a young age. As Wei Shang's voice fell, everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Although many people there, now that this girl had appeared in front of them again, they couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable. But when they heard Wei Shang call Bailey Hongzhuang little friend, they understood Wei Shang's admiration for her. So it's little friend Bailey Hongzhuang. Nice to meet you. I've long heard of yours. Seeing you today, you're indeed extraordinary. The few compliments were scattered. Just by listening to them, one could tell how distant they were. Chapter 6690. When Wei Shang saw everyone's attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang, he couldn't help but frown. Could it be that something had happened that he wasn't aware of? Otherwise, everyone's attitude was a little strange. You all really know how to act. A man looked disdainfully at the people who were feigning civility. This smile is uglier than crying. I don't know what's so funny. Niu Su, don't go overboard with your words. How am I going overboard? Isn't that the truth? Niu Su's face was full of disdain. I think that Miss Bailey is not only outstanding in medical skills, her poison skills are also first class. I really admire you, I really admire you. His drawn-out tone was full of ridicule, and even the stupidest person could understand that he was deliberately insulting her. However, Bailey Hongzhuang acted as if she didn't hear any of this and smiled faintly. You flatter me. Niu Su's expression was blank, and his heart was instantly filled with anger. As a doctor, you actually poison people. I can't learn this kind of method. After coldly throwing this sentence, Niu Su turned around and walked away. His manner clearly showed that he disdained to be associated with Bailey Hongzhuang. When the crowd saw that someone had taken the lead, they couldn't be bothered to pretend anymore and retreated to the side with waning interest. Wei Shang obviously didn't expect this situation. According to his conversation with this girl, he felt that this girl was very polite and wasn't like what everyone said. Medicine Master Wei, I've let you down. Hong Zhuang naturally didn't care about the thoughts of others, but she couldn't help but feel apologetic towards Medicine Master Wei. However, these fellows were all too petty. It had been quite a while since that incident and they still hadn't let it go. This breadth of mind, I didn't understand the situation clearly. Wei Shang shook his head with an apologetic look on his face. Little friend, can you tell me what happened just now? Bailey Hongzhuang didn't mind and immediately recounted what had happened. After hearing everything, Wei Shang laughed. I see, no wonder everyone has such an attitude. You don't mind? Wei Shang said indifferently, as an alchemist, if you can heal others, you can naturally harm others as well. At this point, who can say that they have never harmed others? They are merely trying to save face, so there is really no need to care about it. However, from your appearance, I believe that you do not take it to heart. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. It's not a big deal. I'm already very happy to have met you today. So do I. The two chatted for a while before Wei Shang left. Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to find Beichen, but she found a figure blocking her way. Looking at the beautiful woman in front of her, there was a trace of surprise in her eyes. Wasn't this person City Lord Yang's daughter? You like Brother Qingli. Yang Qinxue stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and got straight to the point. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Yang Qinxue in astonishment. This girl had suddenly appeared in front of her and asked such a strange question. However, she quickly understood that Yang Qinxue must be in love with by Qingli. Yang Qinxue had originally thought that all women couldn't resist looking at Bailey Hongzhuang up close. However, after looking at Bailey Hongzhuang up close, she found Bailey Hongzhuang to be even more perfect. Miss Yang, you're mistaken. I have no feelings towards Master Bai. Chapter 6691. If you like him, then you like him. What's there to deny? Yang Qinxue looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with some disdain. If you admit it frankly, I can still think highly of you. Being so timid makes me unhappy. Seeing Yang Qinxue's worried, jealous, and conflicted look, Bailey Hongzhuang also found it very interesting. It was rare to see a girl with such a genuine temperament. I'm already married. Faced with Yang Qinxue's disbelief, Bailey Hongzhuang could only use her ultimate move. The effect of this move should be the most obvious. Sure enough, after hearing this, Yang Qinxue was dumbfounded. What did you just say? Bailey Hongzhuang pointed at Di Beichen not far away and said, That's my husband. Di Beichen noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's actions and walked over. As soon as he came over, he said, Wife, what's wrong? After hearing this address, Yang Qinxue completely understood that she had made a mistake. She felt that she had thought of him as an imaginary enemy for a long time, but it turned out that he was already taken. She did not have any improper thoughts at all. Immediately, she felt awkward. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Yang Qinxue felt ashamed for a moment. She cursed Bai Luchuan in her heart. It was all his fault for saying such inexplicable things to her, causing her to come here and embarrass herself. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, Mistakes are common. Miss Yang is a thoughtful person. I'm sure you'll get what you want. Looking at the woman's understanding look, Yang Qinxue's face turned red. Her original thoughts of tit for tat dissipated. Such a woman really made people want to befriend her. Thank you for saving Brother Qingli. If there's anything I can help you with in the future, don't hesitate. After understanding this point, Yang Qinxue returned to her original straightforward personality. Then I'll thank Miss Yang first. You're welcome. I should be the one thanking you first. Yang Qinxue smiled and waved her hand. You guys continue chatting. I'm leaving. Seeing Yang Qinxue leave like a wisp of smoke, Di Beichen thought of the previous changes, and his heart had some understanding. It seems that Madame has been treated as a love rival? Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head and saw Di Beichen's jealous face. She immediately smiled and said, I have such a good husband. How could I be involved in such a thing? With just one sentence, Di Beichen's face turned from gloomy to sunny, as bright as the sun. It must be by Luchuan and company who wanted to cause some trouble. However, I never expected wife to be so efficient. Bailey Hongzhuang followed Di Beichen's gaze and realized that Yang Qinxue had already rushed to find Bai Luchuan. Is Bai Luchuan stupid? He clearly knows our relationship, but he still said such words to make Yang Qinxue misunderstand? The woman frowned slightly. She really couldn't understand this method. It was really unwise. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand.